Sure, most would say World War I started with a gunshot. But there's a lot more to the story. This is Leopold Loika. He was born on September 17, 1886, in the old Bohemian village of Telsch. Originally a horse wrangler, Leopold moved on to real horsepower when he became Archduke Franz Ferdinand's chauffeur in 1909. Archduke Ferdinand was first in line to the Austro-Hungarian throne, then occupied by Emperor Franz Joseph I. But serving as emperor wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Austria-Hungary wasn't exactly the most popular European country at the time. 1908. The Austro-Hungarian Empire annexes Bosnia. This ticks off Bosnian nationalists, who wanted to unify all southern Slavic countries under one government. Tensions are still high in 1914 when Archduke Ferdinand decides to visit Bosnia. If there were any place where Ferdinand were to get got, Sarajevo, Bosnia's capital, would be it. Despite this, Ferdinand decides to drive around Sarajevo with the top down in his limousine. Leopold Loika is driving when, out of the corner of his eye, he spots a small bomb hurtling towards the Archduke and his wife. He slams on the gas and the bomb misses its target. The bomb was thrown by Nedeljko Čebrinović, a member of the young Serbian nationalist movement. There are a few injuries, but Ferdinand and his wife are unharmed. After gathering their bearings, Leopold drives on to a scheduled meet and greet between the Archduke and local officials. The officials want to take the Archduke on a tour of the city, but Ferdinand instead decides he wants to visit the wounded victims from the bomb attack. He gets back into the car with his wife and has Leopold drive off to the hospital. In all fairness to Leopold, he didn't know the exact route. No map, no GPS. He made a mistake and turned onto the wrong street. Unfortunately for Leopold and the rest of Europe, this was the street where Gavrilo Princip, one of the co-conspirators of the earlier assassination attempt, happened to be having a drink. Princip can't believe his luck. He has an opportunity to finish out what he started earlier that day. As the crowd tries to subdue Princip, the Archduke and his wife are left bleeding in the car. One bullet struck the Archduke in the neck, the other his wife in the stomach. Both die within the hour. In response to the assassination of the heir to its crown, Austria-Hungary seeks support from Germany. Germany agrees, and Austria-Hungary declares war on Serbia. Russia, Serbia's ally, mobilizes its forces, and as a result, Germany declares war on Russia. Russia's ally, France, then mobilizes its forces, which causes Germany to declare war on France. In turn, Great Britain declares war on Germany. Austria-Hungary then declares war on Russia, Serbia declares war on Germany, and France and Great Britain declare war on Austria-Hungary. The First World War has begun, and all because of a wrong turn.
There are many among us who in the past closed their eyes to events abroad because they believed that what was taking place in Europe was none of our business, that we could maintain our physical safety by retiring within our continental boundaries. To those who would not admit the possibility of the approaching storm, the past weeks have meant the shattering of many illusions.
With a third of Europe now under Nazi control, America still sits on the sidelines. Many believe the war to be Europe's problem. Recalling the horrors of World War I, the majority of Americans don't want to get involved in another European war. President Franklin Roosevelt attempts to convince them otherwise. On September 16, 1940, Roosevelt signs the Selective Training and Service Act, the first peacetime draft in American history. All able-bodied men between 21 and 30 must register for military service. Though Congress approves the bill, it is careful to call it a national defense measure. The draftees may only be sent to defend American-held territories. 2 years ago, the United States had the 17th largest army in the world, smaller than tiny Romania's. And almost 2/3 of American recruits have never fired a rifle. By the summer of 1941, Hitler is ready to launch his forces further east. In June, his armies invade the Soviet Union. By September, they have captured over 1.4 million Soviet troops. In November, Germany, Japan, and Italy renew their military alliance. All agreed to safeguard their common interests. The Axis powers are ready to carve up the world.
Washington. The White House announces Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy. The facts of yesterday and today speak for themselves. The people of the United States have already formed their opinions and well understand the implications to the very life and safety of our nation.
4 days after the attack on Pearl Harbor, Germany and Italy declare war on the United States. It is the first and only time Hitler actually declares war on another nation. Across the U.S., panic spreads as Americans realize they have enemies off both coasts. Surging above the fear is a wave of patriotism and outrage. Within 30 days of the attack, over 134,000 young men enlist for service, ready to take the fight to the enemy. The wars in Europe and Asia now merge into a single gigantic world war, the largest war in history.
The atom bomb, the most devastating weapon mankind has ever invented. A nuclear weapon around the strength of the bomb that went off in Hiroshima is going to release an absolutely cataclysmic amount of energy. The amount of energy that we're talking about is akin to being dropped into the center of the sun. In Hiroshima and then Nagasaki, almost 100,000 people died immediately. The people who were on the fringes of this blast were actually the ones who suffered the most. If you were in Hiroshima and you were close enough to see the blast, but far enough away that it didn't kill you, the last thing that you ever saw was that bright flash, and it would have blinded you.
We came to dance. People came to dance. Like, did it really happen? Were we really here? That everything really happened? To try to remember. Now it's all broken. I don't know what happened after we managed to get out, but...
להתרחק מהחלונות, כולם בבקשה להתרחק מהחלונות. עם הפנים למטה כולם, עם הפנים למטה חמודי, הכל בסדר. الله أكبر ايش الله أكبر بالجنة شباب
Ils sont rentrés par la plage avec des bateaux. Ils ont fusillé tout le monde. Et comme mon fils, il était assez intelligent, il a décidé de courir dans les toilettes de la plage avec ses deux copains et les deux soldats. Mais malheureusement, les terroristes les ont vus. Et ils ont fusillé mon fils. Direct, une balle sur la tête. Des jeunes garçons de 16 ans, 17 ans. Et deux soldats. Personne n'est resté en vie.
חמאסניקים! חמאסניקים!
We're in the city of Sderot. There are many bodies and cars on the main road.
هاي بوابته وقف 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 غاد هاي بوابته وحش بيحنا وحش سنديلك روح
When we ran in here and the shooting started, I right away realized that we have to lock the door somehow. They tried to break this door open. I was shouting really loudly in Arabic and banging the door and beating it and trying and shouting and shouting and shouting, but they couldn't open it.
We tried to call our family. They didn't answer on the phone. At some point, they answered us by text. They told us that they're all together in the panic room, that they're scared, they're terrified, they hear gunshots all over, they hear the terrorists shouting, and they don't know if they'll survive, they don't know if they'll get out of this.
תראו הסרוטים, תראו אנשים מקבלים יריות. אנחנו תקועים בין רק המקום הבטוח פה ליד הטנק ויש פה מנסים לעזור לאנשים עוד וואו.
We found out that he and his friend actually escaped from the massacre in the woods, but they ran with some other friends. They ended up in a bomb shelter.
A group of terrorists arrived to this shelter and started to throw grenades and shooting into the shelter, murdering Einav, his wife, and kidnapping Or. Einav and Or has a 2-year-old son named Almog.
And there were about 30 of these, young people at the festival who were smushed into this very small bomb shelter. Most of them were killed.
At some point, someone answered with bad Hebrew and an Arab accent, and he said to the friend the word, he said he's kidnapped.
And the last thing I heard was my youngest, who's 12, saying, "Don't take me, I'm too young." And that was it. The line went off and they were gone.
Understand there have been explosions and interceptions throughout across Israel against these Iranian missiles and drones as they're being intercepted. So those are some of the pictures you're seeing on your screen now. Let's bring in Sean Bell. He's a military analyst and a retired Air Vice Marshal. He joins us live from Birmingham in the UK. Sean, thank you very much for being with us. Give us first your response then to this retaliation we're seeing tonight against Israel. And how surprised are you that Iran used a direct attack rather than its proxies? Because that's significant, isn't it?
Yeah, good evening, Darren. It is significant. I don't think many people are surprised. I think, as your correspondents quite rightly have been saying, when Israel chose to mount an attack onto the consulate in Syria, the Iranian consulate, on the 1st of April, killing 13 people, including a senior military commander, that they must have expected there was going to be some sort of retaliation. I think what's been interesting, first of all, is how long it's taken for Iran to find the right response. And also, I think Iran finds itself on the horns of a dilemma. As many of your previous correspondents have been saying, Iran does not want to get involved in a war, but it has to protect its reputation. And it certainly doesn't want to see any retaliation as being an excuse for Israel and potentially America to start attacking Iran, particularly its nuclear weapons program, because ultimately it's not if, it's when Iran finally develops nuclear weapons. That will be the ultimate deterrent for nations like Israel and the US, and it will not want to see those get lost. So I don't think anybody's surprised at the level of the attack. I think what we're all looking for at the moment is whether or not they are military targets, maybe government targets, whether there have been telephone warnings to advise to try and minimize the number of casualties, and whether or not actually this is a single wave of attacks. I think what's other thing you're seeing on your pictures, I would remind viewers that at the moment, the Iron Dome and systems like that are only really useful against drones. And it does seem to be that Iran has coordinated a series of attacks, potentially even Hamas firing rockets, but certainly Hezbollah firing rockets, and with the Houthis also attacking in the Red Sea. This is a very, very well coordinated series of attacks by Iran, trying to make a clear point to Israel.
I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. And everybody I've spoken to, this was not a decision made lightly. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent in a really magnificent area that nobody would know. Nobody can look because all they see is death and destruction and rubble.
He sees a different future for that piece of land that has been the focus of so much terrorism. So many attacks against us, so many trials and so many tribulations. He has a different idea. And I think it's worth paying attention to this. We're talking about it. He's exploring it with his people, with his staff. I think it's something that could change history.
On ending the war in Ukraine. Trump announced the phone call with the Russian president in a social media post that followed a dramatic prisoner swap involving American schoolteacher Mark Fogel. Trump is upending 3 years of U.S. policy toward Ukraine, appearing to dismantle former President Joe Biden's mantra that Kyiv would be a full participant in any decisions made. Trump and the Ukrainian president also spoke on Wednesday. Vladimir Zelensky said it was a detailed conversation.
Тривала розмова, ми обговорили багато нюансів дипломатичних, військових, економічних, і президент Трамп поінформував мене про те, що йому сказав Путін. Віримо, що сили Америки достатньо, щоб разом з нами, разом з усіма партнерами дотиснути Росію і Путіна до миру.
In a blow to Ukraine, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said that NATO membership was unrealistic for Ukraine and that any security guarantees would have to be borne by European countries.
We want, like you, a sovereign and prosperous Ukraine. But we must start by recognizing that returning to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is an unrealistic objective.
Reading out of the book of Revelation, chapter 9 and verse 12, and it reads, "One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter." Revelations 11 and 14, and it reads, "The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly." Call hello Yahweh. Bashima Mashiach Yahweh Shai, Ruha Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the mighty men, the elders, and the apostles in the community, waking up the lost sheep of the house of Israel in these last days. Peace and blessings to everyone doing this truth and humbleness and sincerity. Again, I'm going to say shalom, and when you look at the history posted and what's going on right now, it's not long for the great judgment of Babylon the Great. Okay, the United States of America, this place is due to be judged. Okay, America is swiftly approaching 250 years. That'll be late 2025 into 2026. And these judgments are here, and these judgments are only going to increase. So the only thing you can do if you're new into the knowledge of this truth is to keep the commandments of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay, now you have media hype that Trump and Putin, they come to some type of peace deal to end the war in Ukraine. A global war is coming, and it'll be a short-lived global war because we're living in the buildup of Revelation 17. And we all know what Revelation 17 is going to bring when the majority of the nations, I tell you, all the nations, it's going to turn on America. And again, for this so-called Black History Month, it's really Israelite History Month, but here they call it Black History Month. It's a big mockery fest. You got ICE knocking down business doors, knocking on business doors, and you only see them attacking people of color. You only see people of color deported, and I'm gonna leave it there, okay? The bottom line is, if Israelites don't come back to their true heritage, you're gonna get caught out there, and the worst of judgment is coming. right? You have to repent and keep these commandments. There's no other way. America's going to be judged. All these elites, okay, your Elon Musk, all these big names inside the White House making this headline and that headline, they can't help you. It's either you repent, come back to your true heritage as an Israelite, or you're going to die in the judgment. Again, fam, looking at the historical events leading to today with the war history, America's due for this big one, and it's going to be short-lived. Okay, Revelations, the 18th chapter, that's verses 8, and I believe down to 17 and 18, and tell you in 1 hour, 2 precepts tell you in 1 hour this place will never exist. So, let's get a little scripture, and I'm going to wind it down. It won't be a long video, or it won't be a long exhortation, right? Let's read let's jump to Revelations 12 and 12 real quick, okay? And it reads, "Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth he had but a short time." And the powers that be, okay, these Slakia, these elite families that has ruled this world in total wickedness, okay, their sins has reached to heaven, and it's at that point of judgment. Again, you look at the history post, there's not a lot of time, right? Let me see this anymore. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 13. "And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man child." That's symbolic. That's really dealing with Israel. Okay, that's parabolic. Okay. And a lot of apologetics use this verse to, how do you say, come to a conclusion that unbelievers fell down the rage war with, their Disney version of the truth. That's out the door. Okay. The Most High is going to judge the dragon, and that dragon is dealing with your tin horns, your common markets, your dukes of Edom. That's what that's talking about. Okay. Some of them will run to, I believe that was during the time of the Babylonians. There's that verse when the devil fell. I forget the verse exactly, but they use these verses to debunk this whole heritage and apply themselves to it. Meanwhile, the world is ran upside down under these elite powers that be. Okay? From Genesis to Revelations, the Most High is only talking to the children of Israel. Okay? That's the bottom line. So there's no room for Ku Klux Klanmen and neo-Nazis to try teaching the scriptures, because it's not for them. This is for the 12 tribes scattered abroad to the 4 corners of the earth. That's who salvation's for. Okay, salvation, repentance, forgiveness of sins. It's only for the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. That's Acts the 5th chapter, 5:29 down. Okay. Revelation 12 and 13 from the top. "And when the dragon saw that he was cast into the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. And again, that's symbolic to the deliverance of Israel. Okay? When you read, it's either first Esdras or second Esdras in the earlier chapters, it tell you Israel fell and God punished the Israelites. Okay? Nowhere in that oracle you find the Dukes of Edom fell and the Dukes of Edom would get some type of new covenant. There's no new covenant for them. They rule the world right now. Nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There's no way slave descendants in the heat of a third world war is supposed to be aligned to their oppressor. The Lord tells us that in Isaiah 13:13 down to verse 15. Everyone gonna go back into their own people. So if you're a slave descendant, that's common sense now. The Most High tell us to gather together, O nation not desired, in Zephaniah 2:1-3, because that time is coming. That time is here. Okay. Revelation chapter 12 and verse 14. The woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she snores for a time and times and a half of times from the face of the serpent. Okay, that's very parabolic. Because the Lord cast the Israelites into bondage, okay? He passed the cup of judgment on the children of Israel first for violating the commandments. And you can read that in all the Deuteronomy accounts, right? But now the cup has been passed on the heathens, chiefly Esau, Edom, right? Because when you look at the war history, we have come into the very latter end. See if there's any more. Let me see if there's any more. I don't want to keep y'all too long. But I'm warning everyone, especially if you're in the knowledge of this truth, if you're new to this truth, you have to keep the commandments, because the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's already visiting this earth. Look at Cali. First they had wildfire. Now they're getting destroyed by torrential rain, mudslides, and more than likely, an earthquake's going to follow in the heat of that judgment, among other judgments on this earth. The bird flu pandemic, it's just out of control. The violence across the 50 states. We're in a time that make Genesis 6 look very light. Okay? We're in a time that make the days of Lot look very light. We're at the end. And the judgments, okay, the escalation of Jacob's trouble, that's what we're entering in. And just got to pray you saved out of it. That's Jeremiah 30:7 on down to at least verse 10. That's Jeremiah 37 verses 8, 9, and 10. Okay? So we have to buckle up and keep these commandments. Let me see if there's any more before I shut this down. Let's get 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, real quick. 2nd Ezra, chapter 15 and verse 14, and it reads, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and the destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands." Okay? And that one people, that's a reference to the Matthew 24, nation against nation, kingdom against kingdom. How long will slave descendants, especially slave descendants in America, believe in Congress, believe in the White House? And if you voted for Biden or Trump, you can forget it. They can't save you. okay? All them pundits and YouTube, okay, yeah. ABLs, all them Negro pundits out there, they can't help us, man. This thing about to go up in smoke. And I'm telling you, if you're the knowledge of this truth, don't leave. Then you're just going to be stubble for that nuclear fire. That's what's coming to America. When you study Ezekiel, the 20th chapter, the elect's going to the wilderness for judgment, and then that new covenant, the bond of the new covenant, which we're not in. It can only be argued we're in its early stages because you got camps teaching worldwide. Okay? That's the only argument I can make towards a new covenant. We're not in a new covenant because there's no peace on this planet Earth. Yahweh and the saints have not come through to deliver the elect. It's never happened yet. But based on this war history, which has been post, it's almost showtime. See if there's any more. And it's a warning to Israelites that leave the truth. We're gonna slack you. We're gonna end it here. 2 Ezra 15 and verse 22. It says, my right hand shall not spare the sinners, and my sword shall not cease over them that shed innocent blood upon the earth. And that's dealing with your so-called politicians, your sellout pundits, and the wicked powers that be. The Lord's going to judge the wicked. Okay? The elect's going to be delivered into immortality and rest. And the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is going to destroy America for its wickedness, its attempt to destroy the 12 tribes of Israel, and its attempt to destroy this entire planet Earth, which the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob created. But with that, we'll give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem HaMashiach Yahushai, Ruha Rukakodash. Double honors to mighty men, the elders, and the apostles in the community, waking up the lost sheep of the house of Israel in these last days. Peace and blessings to everyone doing this truth and humbleness, sincerity. Israel, I love y'all. We got next. Shalom, family.